afternoon, evening, morning, whatever it may be, wherever you are. We're so grateful to see all of you here this afternoon. Give us a moment and we will watch for people to load in to the webinar. But welcome, everyone. And we are looking forward to chatting with you this afternoon. Okay, people are starting to slow down a bit. It looks like our webinar is still loading in, but creeping up over the 100 participants mark, which is a fun place to be. Welcome, everyone. So pleased to have you here. So we will go ahead and get started. It looks like the webinar participant numbers are starting to slow down in terms of the loading. Welcome to all of you who are here with us live on Zoom, as well as those who are on the live stream on Facebook. And also welcome to those of you watching this tomorrow or the next day or whenever, since we will be recording it today. I'm Jillian Hayes. I'm the Dean of the Graduate Division here at UC Irvine, and I get to be the first one on the panel to say congratulations to all of you on your admission to one of our graduate programs. We have increased our application numbers every single year, which means that it's getting harder and harder to get into UCI. And so you should feel really amazing about your accomplishment of having been admitted. And now it's our job to convince you that this is a great place to spend the next 1 to maybe 5 or 6 years with us. Knowing that making a transition into graduate school, whether you're currently in school or not, can be a huge adjustment. And so I'm so excited to welcome you, hopefully here to our beautiful campus in the fall. I know you're not getting to see it, although some of our panelists will have virtual backgrounds with lovely pictures for you. You can see some hint of the beautiful campus. It is finally sunny here. We've had a very wet winter. Over the next hour and a half, we're going to have a wonderful panel here of some of the experts who can answer many of the questions that you may have about life here at UC Irvine and your transition into graduate school. They're going to each give a little introduction of themselves here at the beginning and may have some introductory information to provide you and so on. As you have questions, please, for those of you who are in the Zoom, go ahead and pop them into the section on the Zoom, and we will respond folks so that those who are watching on Facebook or who maybe are watching this as a recording later can also understand what the questions are as well as get the answers. And so you can put those into the Q&A as people are giving their introductions and so on. I'm a little worried that I might be glitching because everyone keeps freezing on my end. Yep, I'm getting a nod that I am glitching. So I'm going to stop talking to you now. And hopefully we'll move into some introductions and my internet will improve in the meantime. Many apologies. And thank you so much to Liz and Selena, our wonderful ASL interpreters today. They'll be switching off every 15 minutes, and you also can get the closed captions, which of course are the automated closed captions. So apologies for any technical issues. Let me get started introducing folks. I'm going to go in the order that you all are in on my screen as per our usual Zoom etiquette. So we will start, first of all, with Tim Trevin, our Executive Director of Housing. Who is on mute, even though we've been on Zoom for 3 years.
I think I actually took myself onto mute rather than off of mute. Thanks, Jillian. And let me be the second person to congratulate you on your admission to UCI. And we are so looking forward in housing to your arrival on campus and for you potentially to live with us in our campus communities. So our grad and family housing staff and I are really here to help you with your transition to UCI housing if you so choose. And I will drop a general email address in the chat when I'm done with my little intro here so that you know where to contact us for for questions, or of course, you can call the office as well. We house about 4,300 graduate students and students with family in our 4 graduate and family communities. Those communities are named Campus Village, Verano Place, Palo Verde, and Vista del Campo. And that 4,300 constitutes about 60% of all our grad students. We do offer a guarantee for students in PhD programs and in the MFA program, since that is a terminal master's, as well as to our law students. And we are working on being able to offer some level of guarantee for master's students as well. That is yet to come, but that's something that we've been working on. For our master's students, though, and our non-guaranteed students, we have been able to house many of that population, largely because we just did open another 1,055 beds in the Verano 8 complex last fall. Brand new housing with a lot of exciting socialization and study space and event space. So having more beds has allowed us to offer more students, and we are very appreciative of that. 2 of the most important things for you to remember at this time are, number 1, to apply by May 10 if you have a guarantee in order to retain your guarantee. You will lose your guarantee if you don't apply by May 2nd. So I encourage you to apply on time. In fact, I would encourage you, if you are unsure, if you think that there's a chance, but you're unsure, go ahead and apply, because we want to make sure you don't lose out on that opportunity. Now, we understand that you also will need to work through a lot of issues related to your arrival. So the second thing I want you to know is that we are available to answer your questions and to support you in your transition. So don't hesitate to reach out, as I said earlier. For non-guaranteed students, I would encourage you to apply to the wait list as soon as possible. We do offer space on a first come, first served basis for students without guarantees. So get your application in there as soon as possible. So again, happy to have you joining us here at UCI, and look forward to seeing you on campus.
Thank you so much, Tim. And as per usual, there are already loads of housing questions in the chat. We will get to them, no worries, but we'll get through our introductions first. So next up on my beautiful screen panel is Kaylee Anderson Natali, our Director of Professional Development and the Graduate Professional.
Hi, everyone. Again, congratulations. I look forward to seeing you all when you come to campus in the future. I work out of the Graduate and Postdoctoral Scholar Resource Center. So I work with resources and developing programs for graduate students in a lot of different areas. The first area that I often will see kind of early on students in your first or second year would be that I help with external funding applications to things like the NSF or to the Fulbright organization. So if you are coming in to do a doctoral program, to do some research, and you're looking for some external funding, you definitely want to get in touch with the GPSRC. That's the Graduate and Postdoctoral Scholar Resource Center. Obviously, we don't want to say that every time. So those are some of the first workshops you'd probably see with me. Additionally, we hold a lot of certificate programs. So what's great about the certificate programs is you can take a 5 or 6 week training, and then afterwards, that's something you can put on your CV to show that you really put in the effort and really engaged in this topic. And we have a few certificate programs like the Mentoring Excellence Program, Preparing for a Faculty Career, which is great, especially if you're kind of more advanced, maybe at the end of your graduate school career, if you're interested in an academic career. Then we also have some workshops about kind of more focused on going into non-academic careers, like the Management Beyond the Classroom program. We also have a certificate program on emotional intelligence. Through the GPSRC, you can also do a consultation with me, either on external funding or for professional development. And we also work very closely with our Division of Career Pathways. So you can work with a grad career counselor if you have any questions in that area. As part of the GPSRC, we also work really closely with our wellness team to host a lot of wellness events, because of course we want to keep that very top of mind with all of our students, make sure that you know that we think that wellness is really important, it is a priority, and we support it with a lot of sometimes fun activities. We've had adult coloring. We've had, I believe in the past, we've had therapy animals come in, although not the last few years. And then we also sometimes have some more pointed topics like dealing with imposter syndrome or managing stress as a student. So a lot of resources. Once you get to campus, I hope you'll visit us. It is the building in the background here. It's kind of tricky to find. We're on the 3rd floor. So of course you can always email me. I'll put my email in the chat if you have any questions about the GPSRC and any of the services that we offer. But again, happy to be here and happy to be chatting with you.
Thank you so much, Kaylee. And I do really encourage you all to come and find us in the GPSRC when you arrive to campus. Another Graduate Division staff member, over to Ruth Quinnen, our Assistant Dean for Academic and Student Affairs.
Hello, everybody. It's wonderful to talk to all of you, and we are really looking forward to welcoming you to campus this summer and fall, and congratulations to everyone. You've had wonderful accomplishments, and we hope to help you have more wonderful accomplishments here on campus. I am the Assistant Dean for Academic and Student Affairs, so I oversee several different areas like admissions and recruitment, retention, academic counseling, academic progress, degree conferral, academic programs, and so forth. So our staff is here to help you. We are here to help you in any way we can, to assist you and support you and help you get through your journey successfully. And we are very much looking forward to seeing you, and glad you're here.
Thank you so much. Interesting ordering that we're going in, because we have up next our Associate Vice Chancellor for Wellness, Health, and Counseling Services, Dr. Masao Hayashida, who also has loads of questions she's already getting in the chat. So I think that the slides she has prepared for you all will help with some of those questions. But
great. Thank you so much, Dean Hayes. Congratulations, everybody, and welcome to UCI. We hope you make the choice to come join us. I have a PowerPoint presentation, and I don't know if that's going to be loaded up. Awesome. So we're going to start first off with a big welcome, and here's some images from kind of what I do. I oversee 8 units on campus. I also do threat assessment for the university. The next slide talks about 2 of my offices. First is the Counseling Center, which is your first stop for on-campus counseling. We provide couples counseling, group counseling, peer counseling. It is short-term and time-limited mental health services. If you wanted to go off campus, and there's a lot of amazing therapists in Southern California, you can do so if you have UC SHIP. In fact, your copay may be very little, may even be $0. But on the Counseling Center, it is free to come in and get psychotherapy and to use our services. Disability Services Center, we've gotten some questions about disability services already. Obviously, if you're coming into grad school with ADHD or an autoimmune issue or some other kind of condition, whether it's a temporary mobility impairment or a more permanent impairment, we're going to be the office for you. You're going to want to come in with some paperwork from a provider to talk about the limitations and what the recommendations are, whether it's for housing or for classroom. We don't kind of transfer accommodations from one university to another. You will have to sit with our counselor and get an individualized assessment. But there's a picture of Ring Road Rides. We'll even give you a ride to your class if you need one, if you've broken your ankle or whatever. And a lot of universities do not do things like that. Our next slide is our Student Health Center. We hope that you do sign up for the student health insurance for UC SHIP is what we call it. This is a fully accredited medical and dental clinic. We do not bill other insurances. And so if you have Kaiser or Blue Cross or AMP or some other kind of provider, you can still get services here, but we will then bill you for those services. We have we have a dental clinic, we've got physical exams, x-rays, preventative care. And so that's really going to be your one-stop shop for medical services. Then the care office is a confidential space for victims of sexual assault, intimate partner violence, sexual harassment, relationship abuse, stalking. There's also lots of volunteer opportunities as well. We've got some major programs coming up this month. and a variety of partner programs. We've got a yoga for trauma program. So lots of opportunities to get involved as a volunteer in addition to getting services. Next slide talks about our beautiful Anteater Recreation Center through Campus Recreation. Sports, fitness activities, your student fees pay for basic access to the gym, so treadmills, weight room, things like that. If you wanted other services, so a specialty dance class or a martial arts class or a cooking class, we actually have a beautiful teaching kitchen. Those programs often do cost a little bit of extra money, but your basic student fees cover basic access. The next unit I want to talk about is the Center for, it's still on the same slide, but it's the Center for Student Wellness and Health Promotion, which is a health promotion office, some basic programming and services for sexual health, or we have a nutritionist or a dietitian actually you can access for nutrition advice for free. So a lot of what I've discussed is free. And we also have a lot of opportunities to get involved as well. On a beautiful little area where we've got massage chairs, you can come and book for free and just de-stress in that very peaceful room. All right, the next slide, I'm almost done. Child care services. So those of you who are bringing little ones to campus, this is tuition-based, so we do charge for this. But infants as young as a few months, all the way up to after-school care for up to 6th grade, we can take care of that for you. We have 5 different child care facilities on campus, and so you can inquire about each one depending on the age and the needs of your children and what the period of the day that you think you're going to need care. We also have officers of campus social work. So you may have students actually who need this as well, not just you, but the students you teach may have a variety of stressful circumstances that don't require psychotherapy, right? But that maybe require some intervention, from a staff member. And so we can do some case management for high-risk students. Maybe you were in the hospital for a while and you need someone to kind of discuss something with a professor. Or you are experiencing housing insecurity or food insecurity, we can refer you to appropriate resources. All right, a few last things that I wanted to share with you. We take wellness really seriously here. We have long been a part of the system-wide Healthy Campus Network. The UCI is a part of the UC system. We've also were among the first cohort to sign something called the Okanagan Charter, which was it's a concept for creating a healthy university. So we're not just about health care, like medical health care, but we're also about embedding health and wellness into policies and procedures, into the kind of the fabric of the university. So do know that we're taking well-being seriously, and that well-being is more than just the absence of disease. And we certainly share data with our fellow peer campuses. In addition to, we got about $1.7 million a couple years ago to, again, embed health and wellness into policies and to really focus on equity and mental health. An example in the next slide of our equity and mental health things, one more slide, is, we're getting, we've hired many positions, right? Again, we're hiring a trans care specialist, hope to find an eating disorder specialist for student health. We give money every year to students who do a Reclaim Mental Health workshop. We're doing suicide prevention programs. We bring speakers onto campus that talk about wellness. The university hired a pedagogical wellness staff members to teach you all and a faculty how to embed wellness principles into your syllabi. So again, just know that we're taking this really seriously. The last couple slides, if you wanted to connect with Counseling Center electronically, again, we've got all kinds of virtual resources. Sometimes you don't need a therapist, but you do need to plug into some online services. And the very last slide talks a bit about how to find us on social media and follow the Counseling Center for events and tips and things like that. I will continue to answer questions in the Q&A. And of course, we'll go back if there are any questions that you have that really seem to be kind of universal. But thank you so much.
Fantastic. Thank you. Hopefully those resources will be of great help to all of you. There is also an online orientation that we have you do when you start in the fall that will refresh many of these resources, and you'll have access to through the year on Canvas. So you'll be able to get a hold of those resources there as well. And last but not least, we have Reginald Gardner, your elected AGS president. And they are also a PhD student in finishing up what, 4th year, 5th year? I lose track. Over to you, Reginald.
Hey everyone, my name is Reginald. I'm a 5th year student in the Department of Informatics in the School of Computer and Information Sciences. I'm also the elected president of AGS, our Associated Graduate Students. We get together with representatives from every school across campus in order to field student issues and hopefully direct along with a lot of the folks in administration, some policies to improve graduate student life, whether it be through housing, student services, student affairs, or with the chancellor, vice chancellors, etc. So if you have any issues after getting here, come to me or the person that's in my place next year, and we'll hopefully get to the bottom of it and see what we can do for you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And now we will transition to the panel portion of this meeting. So many of you have already been getting your questions answered in the chat. I will go back through some of those because those of you that are streaming on Facebook or who are watching this later may not be able to see the Q&A part. So we'll run through a few of these things and so on. I would say one of the big themes I see in the already answered questions is anything you need to know related to disabilities, please go to our Disability Services Center. There's some questions about accommodations with housing, accommodations with coursework, transferring of disability status, and so on. And all of those questions are best answered by the folks in Disability Services. And I want to take this moment to really encourage anyone, even those of you who have invisible disabilities and may be coping very well, to please go ahead and register with our Disability Services Center. It helps us to advocate for you if we know that you have a disability of some kind. And it's, of course, all kept as confidential as can be, and so on. So that's sort of one set of questions. The other set of questions I would say apply to housing. No surprise, Tim, you always get the most questions at these town halls. But there's some questions about dependents and who counts as a dependent and how we get them access to housing, and then also access to things like the recreation and courses and so on. So we'll have Tim and Marcel maybe answer those dependent related questions.
Perfect. So yes, the specific question was, do stepchildren, are they eligible as dependents in grad and family housing? And the answer is yes, absolutely. And so Marcel, I think you can probably answer the question about access to resources like the Rec Center for partners and dependents.
So I'm going to drop in the ARC website as well. You know, again, if you have an adult family member or partner or whatever, that person would purchase their own membership. So, you know, your student fees cover your membership as a student, and other access is not covered through your student fees. But I will drop in ARC access in the chat.
Thank you so much. We have a series of questions that I will mostly call data related. So there are questions about career outcomes or how successful people have been in various programs and so on. And for that, I am hoping that Derek will do this wonderful magical thing that he does, our Director of Communications in the Graduate Division, which is I say things and then links appear in the Zoom chat as well as in the recording after the fact. We do have a newly launched public dashboard dashboard on a bunch of information that we have available about our graduate programs. And so you can access that information and get a sense of graduation times, outcomes, and some of those other things. For really detailed information, if you want to get a sense of what kinds of companies people have gone to and things like that, you may want to check in directly with your individual program. They'll have a little bit more nuanced information, but for broad strokes data, we can provide that in the dashboards. And as predicted, Derek has put the link to the graduate data dashboards into the Zoom chat. So for those of you that are on Zoom, you can get a hold of those there. Tim, this is a fun one that you get to answer. How much is UCI housing? Is it cheaper than the area that surrounds us? Which I know you like to give those stats out.
Yeah, so we have a variety of rates. So I'd encourage you just to go to the housing website to look at what our rates are. But what I can report is that even our brand new community, Verano 8, is benchmarked at 30% below the general Irvine market and almost 40% below the market that's within a 1 mile radius. And we are committed to doing whatever we can to maintain that kind of a rent difference so that housing is more affordable on campus.
Great. Thank you. And while you're off mute, don't go muting again. If you could just go over the emotional support animal guidelines again. There still seem to be a few questions about, do cats need to be registered as emotional support animals? How do I get registered given that I need to go through disability services and perhaps I don't have a UCI Net ID yet? And Ruth may be the best answer on the UCI Net ID. I don't know, but we'll pass that over to the two of you.
Yeah, so I'll combine the answers to a couple of questions. The question came through also just, are pets generally allowed? And yes, with registration, you may have a cat or a small caged animal for any purpose. ESAs should be registered through the center on the Disability Service Center, another center that is under Dr. Hayashida's umbrella. And we would encourage you to register your ESA at any point that you are interested in doing so or need to do so. So you can get a jump on that now, or you can wait until you get to campus, whatever meets your needs. So if you don't have an ESA now, but you plan to get a doctor's support for that when you get here, you can do that at a later time as well. And then again, I think Ruth probably has the information on how to get a Net ID.
Oh, Ruth, you are muted.
Derek's going to go ahead and post the link to the UCI Net ID information. I think he's working on that now.
But I'll add something as well. Even if you haven't completely sealed the deal yet, you are always free to call DSC and say, if I were to enroll, would this be the kind of thing that would be accommodated? What's the field of options that may be available to me? Obviously, we're going to prioritize currently enrolled students. And so, our quarter just started. We're trying to kind of get through all the students who are currently enrolled. But certainly, if you have a question about, I have this condition, is this the kind of thing, what documentation would I need to bring when I do SIR, you are always welcome to email or contact the office.
And can I go back just for a second, Jillian?
Mm-hmm.
One clarification. So if you have a cat that is an ESA, you can definitely register that for other purposes, but for housing's purposes, you don't need to, because you can have a cat anyhow.
And while you're on the subject of cats, how many cats can I have? Can I be the lady with 75 cats, Tim?
You may not be the lady with 75 cats. I believe, and I'm going to ask my team to send me a message. Thank you very much, team. 2 max for a family.
Okay. So
And
if I
one
have
per-
a roommate who has a cat, I can have 1 cat and they can have 1 cat, 2 per household, right?
Correct. Exactly. 1 per person for singles, 2 per family. But if you have a roommate, you may also have 2 cats in the apartment.
And how about dogs? What's our limits there?
Dogs are only permitted as ESAs. So you would need to go through the interactive process with the Disability Service Center to get registered for a ESA dog.
Perfect. Thank you. We have a question that I have to admit stumps me. So we're going to see if anyone on the panel knows. And if not, we may have to email you after the fact. But we have a current UCI staff member who is about to become one of our grad students. Yay for us, recruiting our own. Do they get to keep their UCI Net ID or does it change? Does anyone know the answer to this? No one knows. We will try to find the answer to this. Maybe if anyone has anyone on OIT from OIT on speed dial, we can ask our IT staff, but we will try to find out the answer to that. We've got some questions about employment and how early you can possibly start working as an ASE or a GSR. And I think Ruth probably is the best to know the answer to some of those questions.
Let's see. Let me find the question.
The question was whether they could start working in the summer. That was the specific question.
It depends. You would have to contact a faculty member with whom you would like to work and see if they have a research opportunity prior to the fall, prior to your arrival in the fall. Sometimes that does happen. If you have a specific faculty member in mind that you are interested in working with, I would strongly suggest contacting that person to see if it's possible that you could arrive early and start research. We do have some, for example, a summer program called Competitive Edge that some students participate in, and they actually do some research in the summer with a faculty mentor, as well as participate in a number of different programming. So yes, if you have a specific faculty member in mind, I would highly suggest contacting that person. If you just have a department that you're going into, you can email me. I'll put my email address in the chat, and I can put you in touch with the respective person in that department that may be able to help you.
Thank you, Ruth. And that's actually a good general point that I'm going to ask Reginald to kind of answer from the student's perspective. How do you figure out who to ask these questions of, right? Whether that's a faculty member or a staff person, or how do you just sort of navigate the ins and outs of your individual program? What advice do you have?
For your individual program, the first person I think you should always go to is your advisor. Aside from the fact that you may just be getting here, or if you're a prior staff member, may just be getting into the academic affairs side of things, most faculty have been here for quite a while, so they'll have some information, but also they're very busy, so they may not have it all. Feel free to go to your graduate dean if your department has one, and the chair of your department if no one has any of that information. Also reach out to AGS. We have students from all across campus, so maybe one of us can help you out. We've all been here too long. And reach out to graduate division. Haley's been extremely helpful in me figuring out how some of the university works as well.
Absolutely. Thank you. That's great advice. Please do reach out to AGS or to us if you aren't sure. Every academic school does have an associate dean for graduate affairs, with the exception of nursing, they're a little bit quirky, but everyone else has an associate dean, and they typically have a lot of staff as well. So for some of these individual questions, as an example of one of these that I'll give you is in an interdisciplinary program, how strictly are the prerequisites enforced? That is very much a question that you're going to want to ask of the faculty in the individual program that you're in. So I really encourage you all to reach out. If you aren't sure who that person is, please don't be shy. AGS and Grad Division are absolutely here to help you with all of those kinds of things. And similarly, there are often individuals. So I see a question about, is there a public policy specific meeting or any way to talk to people involved in the program? The first thing I'll tell you is our graduate students are incredibly friendly, maybe eerily friendly, actually. So if you are looking, most departments have a list of the PhD students, and many of them also have a list of master's students. If you see someone who maybe went to the same undergrad as you or is doing research in an area that you're interested in, just email them. They will probably be very happy to talk to you, go to coffee with you, whatever, when you arrive. They can answer often so many questions. And if you can find their name, but you can't find their email, you can look them up on the UCI directory. So that's directory.uci.edu, and you can usually find that fellow student. We find our students so helpful in answering all of those kinds of questions. And there may be individual meetups or orientations or other things for the individual programs. Okay, Tim, back to you. We have a bunch of timing related housing questions. So if you could just remind everyone sort of when they might get an offer, when the wait list might get processed, the range of dates that they might have available for move-ins and so on. So all the date kind of questions.
Absolutely. So we will start to send out offers. We anticipate we'll be doing that sometime in May, probably late May, but definitely through June and July. The move-in dates, we try to tailor as closely as possible to the request that's made. When you apply for housing, you will be able to identify the unit types that you preference and your move-in date. And we will do our very best to get you as close to those two criteria as possible. But I will encourage you to be as flexible as you can, because our ability to get you something that closely meets your needs really depends on also your flexibility. Somebody also asked, what are the chances of getting a 1-bedroom? And they'd asked if I had to give a percentage, what is that percentage chance? I actually really can't give a percentage because it's really a moving target every year. But I will say that we have very few 1-bedroom units. So I wouldn't count on it, but I wouldn't say that it's absolutely impossible. Again, I would encourage you to apply for a variety of 2-bedroom units that look like they could work for you, so that if we can't get you into a 1-bedroom, we can get you into a 2-bedroom that seems workable for you. Help me out, Jillian. What were some of the other things that you were asking?
Well, the competitive edge students would like to know if they get to move in early.
Yeah, that I'm going to ask my team. Yes.
Yes. I even know the answer to that one.
Thank you to, I wanted to make sure that I was accurate on that. As space allows, yes, we do permit. And I also want to go back to the units that are available. We do have 3- and 4-bedroom units as well. And those are more economical units in our newer communities. So that's another great thing to consider. And I think that's pretty much everything you had pointed out.
Yep, I think that's great. And then while we're on the topic of timing, maybe Ruth, if you want to run down the when you get paid question.
Sure. So typically, if you're receiving a fellowship, you will get paid starting on October 1st. Most stipend schedules are October 1st through June 1st of the following year. So for the academic year, some programs will give students, like a $2,000 moving stipend that gets paid on September 1st. So it depends on the program, but the normal pay schedule is October through June. I will caution everyone that if you are employed as a TA or a GSR, typically the first paycheck is actually on November 1st because everybody's paid in for employment is paid in arrears. So you would be paid for work in October on November 1st. If you start work earlier than that, then you would get paid for that work. If you worked in September, you would get paid in October for that. Typically, also, we do encourage students to sign up for direct deposit, and your money will be in your bank account on or before the first day of the month.
Yes, please, please, please sign up for direct deposit, and please also update your address as soon as you get a local address, because we have had situations where people have had paychecks mailed to another country, and that's not fun for anyone. So that's definitely a really important one. Kaylee, let me switch over to you a bit with some questions about childcare. Maybe this is a Marcel question as well. How early should I apply for preschool? Any thoughts about how we support our students who are also parents?
So I don't have information about the preschool specifically, although I will say, just as an ex-UC student, I got my PhD at UCR. As early as possible is almost always the answer for any of these things. Anytime there's going to be a wait list, if you are thinking, oh, I might need housing in the fall, but I'm not sure, apply now, because of course that opportunity may pass you by. It'll be much easier if you get an offer and you're able to just say, oh, I figured something else out, than to, find yourself high and dry. So I will defer on that question. But for student parents, we do have, there's the childcare, and then we offer a lot, I guess through our wellness team would be where I would direct you for most of those resources to get connected with support groups like that, things like that. Marcel, anything to add?
I would say the same thing. There are a couple of different preschools, right? So, I mean, I would recommend, I think we did put the childcare in the chat, but we can certainly do that again. And so you'll want to speak with the directors of each school to get on a wait list. Depending on the age of your child, there may or may not be a wait list. And also, if you are underneath certain income requirements, there may be grants available to you as well. So you would certainly just talk about your needs with the director of the school that you are considering having your child in.
Thank you
Yes, as soon as
so
possible.
much. Yes, I will, as a parent of young children, I will also echo the as soon as possible. Even if you haven't decided for sure if you're coming here, go ahead and get on the wait list. It's always good to express your interest in childcare in any place that you're thinking about possibly going. So let's see, so many great questions. There are a couple questions about when do you apply for competitive edge? How does the competitive edge piece happen, and so on. I would normally send this one to Ruth, but she's gone off camera for a moment. So I'm going to ask Mariella, who hasn't introduced herself yet, if she doesn't mind coming on camera, guest appearance, to talk to us a little bit about competitive edge.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Mariela Menendez, and I oversee the recruitment area for graduate division. Congratulations for your admission to graduate programs here at UCI. We're very excited that you're considering our campus as your graduate destination. So to answer the competitive edge questions, it's different for every student. So some students, if you're awarded the Eugene Cota Robles Fellowship, you are automatically invited to participate in the fellowship, in the competitive edge program. Now, if you are not a recipient of that fellowship, usually the department nominates you through what we call a buy-in process. It's internal language and jargon and whatnot. But essentially, if you're interested in participating in competitive edge, contact your department as soon as possible to have the conversation on whether the competitive edge program will be a fit for you this summer. Do so as soon as possible. I do believe the program does have a cap, but definitely connect with them as soon as you can. Any questions, you can also contact our office, and I will drop that email address in the chat.
Thank you so much. Excellent pinch hitting from Mariella. We really appreciate it. She's a wonderful resource for all of you as well once you arrive here. An excellent question about where do you go to make sure the mailing address and direct deposit are up to date, since I just scolded all of you and told you make sure that that happens. There are two places, as I understand it, at least. One is UC Path, which is your employee database for anyone who is employed here, and the other is our student system. But let me ask Reginald if they could speak on behalf of the student perspective of all of the places that you might update your information as a student.
Aside from direct deposit, some things you might want to consider is updating your address on any things you receive regularly. What else? No.
I'm just trying to think. I feel like y'all go through a lot of different systems. So I thought you might want to, I don't know
Yeah,
if there's any
mean,
that you want to highlight.
usually things will pop up. So either you won't get something or you'll receive an email that something is coming and it's to the wrong address and you'll immediately address it. So it's a matter of putting out really small fires over and over again until everything sort of works.
So pay lots of attention to your email, I feel like is
Yeah.
the message that they've just given us. Thank you for that. We have a question about how the tuition and fees are paid. So I'm going to have Ruth explain to you the elaborate thing we call remission.
So for fellowships, if you get a fellowship that includes fees and tuition, that is input by your department into our graduate aid system, which is a financial system on campus. And the fee credits are posted to your student billing account, which is also known as your ZOT account. And that will apply automatically to your fee assessment so long as you are enrolled in at least one unit. If you are employed, then there is a system that the campus payroll system feeds data into our internal database, which then automatically generates whatever remission applies to your type of appointment. And that is then automatically also posted to your student billing account where it will apply to your fees and tuition so long as you're enrolled in a unit.
Perfect. Thank you. We have a host of questions about fellowships that I'm going to invite any of my panelists to jump in on if they like, but I'll start off with a couple of things, which is you should always apply for fellowships. And the reason for this is even if it doesn't improve your financial situation, it looks really good on your CV. So always apply for fellowships. The little ones are wonderful because they typically are sort of money that just sits on top of any other money that you were already going to get, say a TA-ship or another fellowship or something. And the bigger ones often get you out of having to do any employment work. So you may wind up with the same sort of take home, if you will, but now you don't have to be a TA and instead you have a fellowship or things like that. So that's the first thing I'll say is always apply for fellowships. Kaylee and her team are around to help you with those things. There are some very specific questions in the chat that I'm not going to read out all of them, but what happens if I have an NSF GRFP? What happens if I get a Fulbright? Things like that. Those are typically best talked about with your individual program. We do try to keep all of our students at a minimum level. So if you come in with a fellowship that doesn't provide as much funding as we might otherwise have done, we'll try to work with you to make sure that that works. We have to do that within the guidelines allowed by our contract with the union that represents our TAs and our GSRs. So there may be some detailed looking into your particular situation that is required, but fellowships are generally always a good thing to do. And the last thing I'll say about that is the expectation is if you have an external fellowship that's sort of the same size and weightiness of a year of funding or whatever the case may be that we would normally offer, we will typically want you to turn down our funding and go ahead and take that external fellowship. But sometimes things can be worked out and just talk with your advisor and local folks. Reginald, jump in.
Completely different issue. Did we answer the net ID question? Because I have an answer.
Oh, we did not, but go for it. Love
Great.
it. Love the follow through.
One of my friends in student government, student media has been undergrad, graduate, and staff, and has flipped between the three, and they maintain the same net ID the entire time.
Well, there you go. Mystery solved. We're all learning things today. Anything you want to add about fellowships while you're chatting?
Pay attention to the internal and external due dates, or you will miss some that have to go through your department before they go to the university. I have missed many.
Perfect. Kaylee?
Yeah, on fellowships, I also just wanted to take a moment to talk about one of the things Dean Hayes mentioned is that they're valuable to be applying to for more than just getting the money. I always like to tell students, if you can convince people to give you money, then that is like a really good professional development skill. You will do well in life. So starting with fellowships where you're applying for funding, you're making the argument to these organizations that the work you're doing is worthwhile in terms of funding. That skill building area is really useful, lucrative even. So that's one of the other reasons that you really want to be applying to fellowships. And I'm just going to also add to what Dean Hayes said, and I'm sure she meant this as well, apply to fellowships so long as you have bandwidth. There may be times where fellowships are coming at you, so many at a time. But if you want to think about, if you want to kind of tackle this in a more systematic way, think about when these fellowships are being offered year to year and plan ahead. So in your first year, if you're in a doctoral program, look for fellowships that you might be interested in applying to 2 or 3 years down the line. That can help you feel a little bit less overwhelmed because you have kind of a game plan. And that's the kind of thing that you could definitely do a consultation with me, and I can help you kind of figure that out, and we can go over resources for finding those types of funding opportunities. So that's it.
That is a great point. Absolutely. And if you do miss a deadline, as Reginald just mentioned that they did, that's okay. Don't beat yourself up about it. You can still be very successful, even if you miss a deadline for a particular fellowship. There are often many others available as they come along. Great question. Tim, we've got a question about who is eligible to live in Palo Verde or any of our specific housing communities. Can you talk about any restrictions that there might be on any particular community?
Yeah, so eligibility is first and foremost for students who are grad students or students who have families. We also provide housing for students for veterans in grad and family housing, and that's true for Campus Village, Verano Place, Palo Verde, and for Vista del Campo as well. So there's no specific difference in criteria other than the fact that we do reserve Campus Village for students. For single students and partner students. We don't have the facilities for families in Campus Village. So Campus Village is really not set up for family housing. We also have housing for students who are over 25 years old. So undergrads over 25 can live in grad and family housing. The one other thing that I'll mention, which is not exactly directly related to that question, is we do have a wonderful family resource center that is available in Palo Verde and services both Palo Verde and Verano Place. This is a place where we have staff available to run educational programs, create play groups. There are play areas, a playground right outside, and has been heavily used by our families this year, and we're just really happy to be able to provide that service.
Thank you. And we've got a couple of questions about things like, I'm not going to be ready to answer by April 15th, or maybe I want to defer my offer altogether. Ruth, can you walk through what the different rules are? And
so
you are still on, oh, there you go.
Typically, if you are given a financial offer, that is good through April 15th. UCI does subscribe to a consortium where we all have a similar deadline if you are given a financial offer. Some programs will be fine with students being admitted, SIRing after that, but it is possible, particularly if your admission letter states this, that the financial offer is only good through April 15th. If you have questions and you do think you probably will come, but you want to know from your program what the ramifications may be, I would highly encourage you to contact the program and ask them, this is my situation, what advice can you give me?
Fantastic. Thank you. And then there's a question about, Tim, what the balance in the ACC communities are in terms of undergraduate versus graduate, given that they are both?
Yeah, my recollection, and my team can shoot me a Teams if this is not accurate, is that we have a little over 200 graduate students in Vista del Campo. It is in a specific area, so you certainly would not be living in a unit with undergrads, and almost definitely not in a unit that is in a living area with undergraduates. We've tried to keep those units in a contiguous area, but that's not true in Campus Village, Palo Verde, and Verano Place, where those are entirely for adults over 25, veterans, grad students, and dependents.
Fantastic. And we also have questions about parking in grad housing, and I actually think this might be in the process of changing, so I want to be a little bit careful how we answer what the rules are about how many vehicles you can park in grad housing and whether you have to pay for those permits or any of that.
Good deal. And I was typing an answer, so stop me if I'm not answering the question you just asked. So yes, you are able to bring a car. We are actually working on a new parking policy, but that will not be enacted until the following year. So for this next year, you'll just need to register your car with the community office in your area. And let me see, my team gave me some other information. Singles get one car, families get 2 cars.
Perfect. Thank you so much. We've got a question about the application process for seeking teaching and research assistant positions. And I'm going to ask Reginald to jump in here as well from the student perspective. The main thing I will tell you is it's highly field and program dependent. So we do have fields that are much more sort of grant dependent. So our students tend to have research assistantships, more what we call GSRs, graduate student researcher, in those fields. And those are typically with your primary advisor, though not always. Whereas in our less grant dependent fields, typically students will have some amount of fellowship years and some amount of teaching assistant years. We here at UCI, for our PhD students, do have guaranteed funding packages that are multi-year. So please consult your offer letter to make sure that you understand that. So you won't necessarily in those cases need to apply specifically for a position. You may fill out an application form that talks about your interests or your skills, but you may not. You may just simply be assigned. For the master's students on the call, you are typically going to have to register some kind of interest with someone somewhere. And again, it's very school dependent. So for example, in social sciences, the TA-ships are all allocated centrally. So you just need to tell someone in graduate student affairs that you're interested. In the School of ICS, there's an actual application that you can fill out. And in fact, students from other schools can also fill out that application if they're interested in ICS TA appointments. In other schools, it's handled by individual programs. So you would need to let someone know in each individual department and so on. Reginald, is there anything you want to add to that from the student perspective?
Yeah, every school on campus handles their TA assignments a little bit differently. Some are department, some are more dictated by department, some are more dictated by the school centrally. And as far as research assistantships and GSRs go, building those relationships with faculty that are on research projects that you find really interesting is, I think, central to that. Some of the smaller or new budding departments on campus may have graduate students that do research or have a research assistantship outside of their department, but still within their school. I know for some folks, so like neurobio, chemistry, and the folks that are in labs are on rotations for, I think, the first 2 years before their comprehensive exams. So finding research projects in labs after that is the responsibility of the student, and unless you're TAing, in which case, hey, people like to teach. I like to teach sometimes. So it really depends on what department you're in on campus and how you navigate those conversations. For TA-ships, I think most departments on campus at least have a interest and skills form of some sort, so they can more easily place you. So if you're a computer science graduate student with little coding experience, but you have a background in, let's say, economics and public policy, they may put you in a project planning class instead of a upper division coding class, right? So it's mostly based around the skills that you can provide and how you can best help the students that you have to teach.
Great. And an easy follow-on to that is, do TAs receive full or partial tuition remission? The answer is full, Sarah. So thank you for answering that question. That's an easy, I like the easy ones that we can answer quickly. We have a question, Tim. I don't know if you know it off the top of your head, these data. What percentage of graduate housing applicants are provided on-campus housing?
Yeah, so our guarantees, 100%. If you have a guarantee, you're going to get an offer. For non-guarantees, which again are our master's students mostly, as well as our medical students actually, the likelihood changes every year, but it increases tremendously if you are applying for a 3 or a 4 bedroom. So I'd encourage you to do that. And as I had said earlier in kind of my opening remarks, we have been successful in placing a very large percent, and much more than in the past, with the opening of our Verano 8 community. So I would say good likelihood, but I can't give you exactly a percentage.
Thank you so much for that. And as I understand it, this last year, those 4-bedroom lower cost units in Verano 8, we were still filling those fairly close to the start of school and pulling people off wait lists and so on.
Yes.
Fantastic. We've got another question about TA-ships. So I'll just try to answer this one, but feel free to jump in, anyone else on the panel, about, can you get a waiver and a stipend by teaching one course? Our TA employment agreements are governed by a contract system-wide across the University of California with the UAW that represents the TAs. They are not written in terms of number of courses. They are written in terms of hours per quarter. So what typically our PhD students are receiving is a 50% teaching assistant offer. That's the most typical thing that we see, which equates to 220 hours across the course of the quarter. That could theoretically be split between multiple courses, or that could be on a single course, but either way, it's a number of hours worked across the quarter. That's kind of how that's governed. So I unfortunately can't give you a more specific answer than that, but I would again encourage you, reach out to, if you're a PhD student and you've been given a name of an advisor in your admissions letter, that's a great question you can ask of your advisor. What's the sort of typical kind of course that someone might TA, or what's that look like in this particular department? If you don't have an advisor assigned to you, then you can ask the graduate program director, or a staff member in student affairs for the school that you're in, are typically good places to get that. And we've got a question. I'm not entirely sure how to answer this question. So here's my general caveat that I'm going to give to all of you. People use a lot of words that mean different things depending on who's using the word. So sometimes someone says stipend, and they do mean truly like a fellowship stipend. And sometimes they say stipend, and what they really mean is salary or payment for employment. And sometimes people use different words for fellowships that are words that I don't know what those things mean. So I will encourage you again, reach out to AGS, reach out to us in Graduate Division with any very specific things, and we can go back and forth with you a little bit to try to understand what things are. So I've got a question that are doctoral stipends separate from TA-ships? I don't know what that question means, so I'm going to answer a different question. I'm like a news reporter politician now. I'm just going to answer the question I want to answer, which is, our students often receive money in a variety of ways. One of those is fellowships. One of those is employment. That could be as a teaching assistant, as a GSR. There are also other little pieces of employment that people sometimes do. So they might work in graduate housing, sort of supporting the community and things like that. Or they might work in our writing center as a writing tutor for fellow graduate students or other kinds of things. Or you might decide you want to run for elected office and you become the AGS president and your funding is based on that. There are all different kinds of ways that people can get funding. So sometimes you might have multiple of those things at once. You might have a partial GSR and a partial TA, or you might have other kinds of things. If you have any questions at all, reach out to your advisor, to your individual program director, or you can even email us in Grad Division and we can help walk through your offer letter. I know they're kind of legalistic and they're not super fun and they might be confusing. So we can help you sort of interpret them. Your advisor should also be able to help you interpret them. But that's sort of all the different kinds of things that you might be getting. And sometimes there are internal competitions within the schools, even for recruitment fellowships. So it may be that some of you are in a position now where your advisor has told you, hey, I nominated you for a thing, and I don't know if you're going to get it yet or not. Ask the advisor when you might expect to know that, because that's probably an internal award within, say, the school, a dean's special recruitment fellowship, something like that. Anybody want to add anything to that mishmash of things I just said? I'm stressing out the ASL interpreters. I think I talk too quickly and I say weird things. Kaylee or Ruth, you want to jump in, or do you think I covered it?
I think you covered it.
I think you covered it too. I'll just kind of mention, again, kind of as an alumni, and Reggie might be able to back me up on this. The funding situation, you're right to be stressed about it. It's confusing and it can be a lot. But I'll also say that once you're in it, when you're at the institution, these things start to make a little bit more sense. Keep asking questions, keep reaching out to us, keep reaching out to your department, because they are going, or the department that's admitted you, they're going to know the most. But I do just want to acknowledge it can be really intimidating, but there are a lot of students that come in, get their funding, and successfully graduate, and you're probably going to be one of them as well. Reggie, do you have any thoughts on kind of calming some of these very valid concerns?
I'd say just stay in communication with your advisor at all times. Usually that resolves most problems. If they escalate at all and it's beyond your capacity to deal with, reach out to AGS, reach out to your department chair, and just sort of try to workshop it with them. I think stressing out is probably the worst thing to do, because it just makes it harder to think and harder to act, and fear takes over. So just don't let fear take over. Just be brave.
I love that advice generally. And yes, not doing anything just because you're stressed out is probably the worst thing. Go ahead and ask questions. And even if you feel like you've asked it and we've answered it and you still don't understand, ask it again in a different way. We can try to find a way to answer eventually.
I just want to also add, I get students sometimes coming to me with the concern of like, if I accept this $100 fellowship, am I trading a fully thousands of dollar funded fellowship down the line? And we are also aware of that. We're not going to allow you to trade a gigantic fellowship for $100 fellowship that won't allow you to take on additional funding. So just FYI, there are also other people who have their eye on this. And we also know that you're looking for full funding. You want to maximize your funding. So again, there are a lot of people that should be able to help you. Again, very valid concern. Keep asking questions, but it does tend to work better than it might sound right now.
Yes, and please do ask questions, because sometimes there's fellowships out there, especially external ones, that we actually don't know anything about. I mean, there's just so many hundreds, thousands of fellowships out there. If you are confused about something and it seems new to the university, please reach out to Kaylee or Ruth or me or anyone in AGS and let us help you kind of look into it. Because sometimes there are restrictions on money that comes from the outside that the university is going to say to you, this isn't a good idea. And we'll help you find that, right? So if it's like you have to sign over all of your IP forevermore, we would probably encourage you not to do that, for example. And so there are some backstops here, but please do reach out for advice and so on. We have a question in here that we're going to see if anyone on the panel knows the answer to, because it's another one that's got me stumped, and I keep waiting to see if anyone's going to type in an answer, and they have not, which is, how do we handle military leave if people need to take a leave of absence for military or for other reasons, I suppose, as well?
Well, I can sort of answer it. Military leave obviously is allowed, and we very much respect that and thank anyone for being in the military and their service. Most of the time, things can be deferred with respect to fellowships that have a specific timeline. I would suggest, if you have some concerns, if you could email me with a little bit more information and I can look into that for you. That might be best, because everybody's situation is a little different, and some fellowships, even if they're time dependent, can be deferred, for example, and some cannot. So I would absolutely encourage you to email me, and we can exchange some more information so I can look into that for you.
And I'll just add on to that, if at any point you think you need to take another kind of a leave of absence, communicate, talk to your advisor, talk to us, talk to Dr. Hayashida's various offices, talk to everyone you can. It's better to get all of these things on people's radar sooner. Reginald, it looked like you had something to add to that as well.
Yeah, I would say it would be smart to reach out to the Veteran Services Center. I think Dr. Molina is the director right now. I could be wrong. And they definitely have resources that might be of help to you. If not, they'll definitely know who to go to for that specific problem, right?
Fantastic. Thank you. Dr. Hayashida, does Veteran Services live under your organization, or is that in another part of Student Affairs?
Yep, that's in Student Life and Leadership, but it looks like the link was already put there.
Perfect. So Derek is doing his usual creepy yet very helpful eavesdropping on the conversation and adding links for us. So veteran.uci.edu for any of those kinds of questions. Thank you so much. We have a question about orientation. So we started something during COVID that we have kept, and I'll let the other folks on the panel talk about it a little bit, but which is we have a virtual orientation as far as the campus-wide orientation, and then your individual program may have an additional either virtual or in-person one. I don't know if anyone wants to jump in and talk a little bit about what's covered in orientation. Our orientation person is not here. I'm hoping that maybe someone else will jump in for her.
So we do have some orientations, and they are virtual. We obviously did them virtually during COVID and found that actually worked really well. We have different modules that will be posted on our website, so students can either go back and review them, or if they weren't able to attend the orientation at the time, they can watch them whenever they would like. They're separated into different modules because not everybody's interested in every topic that might be covered. But you should be getting, and once you have, indicated that, yes, you are going to join us at UC Irvine, you will be getting emails that will tell you about orientation and when to register and how to register and those sorts of things. And we really, really encourage that, because it's also a lot of really good information, and you learn more about the campus, more about resources, and more about, what there is available to support you and to help you on your journey, and to also familiarize yourself with the campus. Amy, I don't know if you want to add anything.
Yeah, I just recommend that you check for the Canvas invite. We get a lot of students that accept their orientation Canvas invite like a year later, and you've missed all of that information. So make sure that you're checking for that. Either you'll get an email, sometimes it goes to junk folders though, so it's really important that you go into your Canvas and sign in with your UCI information, and you'll see a course that says orientation So make sure that you check for that.
And that has prompted a great question in the Q&A, which is, what is Canvas? We keep talking about it. So this is the learning management system that our campus uses. If you're familiar with things like Blackboard or Moodle, very similar kinds of functionality. Once you are able to get your UCI Net ID, you should be able to get into a variety of UCI services, including Canvas, but also all kinds of other things. Your courses will, for the most part, have a Canvas site. I will tell you, my fellow faculty are not always great about making a Canvas site, but most courses do now use it. So you have sort of a one-stop shop for being able to keep track of assignments, discussion board posts, and so on. And that's also where the orientation information is. That course stays live for you the whole of your first year, so you can go back and watch anything. One of the complaints that we got pre-COVID was that a week of orientation was like a fire hose, and it was very overwhelming for people, and they often didn't know what they needed to know until much later. So you can really make use of the site throughout the year. And we find that that's sort of helping people. We actually go back and look at, on average, how many of our different modules are checked in on at various times of the year. And we do find that people are continuing to access them later on. So hopefully you will find that useful. And Derek has put the graduate student welcome and orientation link into the chat as well. Well, I am happy to report that we have now answered 95 questions, which is pretty impressive. And we're also down to 95 attendees. We were up at about 140 at the high point. So that must be a sign of some kind that we'll bring these proceedings to a close. Again, I really encourage you to reach out to your individual programs, reach out to AGS, reach out to any of the people on this panel, and we are happy to help answer questions. But I do like to close these town halls with the little bit of advice that you might offer. Most of the people on this panel have graduate degrees themselves, and they have all been working with graduate students for a very, very long time, and may have a little piece of advice for you as you begin this next step in your journey. So let's start with our illustrious president, because they happen to be in the Hollywood Squares upper left corner for me. And yes, I'm old. I'm making Hollywood Squares references. Although, is your video frozen? I think Reginald's video might be frozen. Oh no, they're moving. Okay, over to you first. What's your advice for our incoming students? And you can't say join AGS. You're still muted. There we go.
Oh no.
Yes.
Okay. Besides joining AGS, I think for me, the most important part of graduate school, and I think I experienced it early on. So if you're in competitive edge, spend a lot of time talking to other people. A lot of the information you'll get about campus, about your specific discipline, about publishing, about applying for jobs, everything else will be important. But what I think is most important is building those connections with other scholars, whether they're in your field or not. Learning to sort of navigate those conversations across different almost languages of scholarship, whether you're qualitative or quantitative, or you're in the humanities, or you're in ICS, you're a coder, or you're a neuroscientist. And I think building those connections will get you the most practical and intellectually fruitful skills throughout your graduate degree. That's it.
Excellent advice. Kaylee, over to you.
Hi, everyone. My advice is usually the same with this, with all of these, and that's ask questions. And sometimes you may not have gotten to the point where you have a fully formed question yet. And that is still an acceptable time to talk to your advisor, to come and talk to me, to talk to other people in the office. I find a lot of students are really concerned about you're wasting our time, which you are not wasting our time. And you deserve our time. You are here for a reason. You've been admitted. So I think it's really important to keep that in mind. So make sure you ask questions. And if you just, you don't have a fully formed question, that's okay. Don't put off these conversations. Come talk to us. We can chat it out and help find some solutions or refer some resources. But just don't delay those conversations. As Reggie mentioned, this is a great place to have a lot of conversations, both with your colleagues, but also with administrators, faculty. We are here for you.
Tim?
Yeah, I think I love Kaylee's and Reginald's answers. And I would say on top of that, take time to get engaged in your community when you arrive on campus. Your experience, and I'll use Reggie's words, will be very enriched by being plugged in. And there are so many opportunities to do that everywhere on campus, but also in your housing communities. And we've been intentional in building facilities that support that kind of socialization too. So you'll hear more when you arrive, and we'd love to have you just get plugged in.
Marcel?
Hi, everybody. I just want to let you know that part of graduate school, I think, is about the intellectual pursuits. That's great. But it's also about stress management. What are you eating? Are you exercising? What are your relationships like? This may be where you meet a partner, or where you have children. So think about this as your whole life, not just the academic part of your life for a few years. And then think about, what are you going to do to keep well, not just in graduate school, but in the rest of your life. Grad school is where I developed my love of yoga. It started off as something for my low back, and then it ended up being so much more. So you're going to find some things that you gravitate towards, people that you are going to enjoy being around, relationships with the advisors that you're going to have to navigate. And so please use our wellness services to do all of those things for your life, not just for the time that you're here at UCI.
Great advice. And Ruth?
I would really just like to echo what everyone else has said. Talk to people, feel comfortable asking questions. Take care of yourselves, spend the time on yourself. You're important, and we want you to be here, and we want you to have not only a good educational experience, but also, as Marcel pointed out, a really wonderful life experience. And not only while you're at UCI, but afterward as well. But it's a good way to build that base for moving forward in your life as you go through different things. And you will have some skills that you will develop. And we want you to establish your community and make friends, as Reginald said, and really have a whole experience. It's not just about the academics, although certainly those are important, but it's about so many other things as well. So by all means, give yourself the time to explore all those other things, and just, we want you to be successful, and we're here to help.
Fantastic. Well, everyone's been so positive that I'm going to give my little piece of advice, reminding myself of what life was like 20 years ago, which is to say, I have never felt smarter in my life than in graduate school, and I have never felt dumber in my life than when I was in graduate school. And I remember feeling like everyone around me had it all together, and they were so smart. And what was I doing here with all these brilliant people? How could I ever succeed? And I just want to tell you, everyone feels that way. So if you are ever feeling any kind of worries or do I belong or anything else, you were admitted to a graduate program at the University of California, and that means you are awesome. And we are not worried about your ability to succeed. You are going to have those feelings when you feel a little bit lost. Do what everyone said, make friends, ask questions, do your yoga, get out in the community, do all of the things to help yourself get through it. But you will have those times, and you are not alone in that process. So wonderful to speak with you all this afternoon. Or for those of you who are watching it at 2:00 in the morning on your phone, I hope you've enjoyed this and we can help you go to sleep now. We really sincerely look forward to meeting all of you in person in the fall, and so grateful that you spent this time with us today. Please don't be shy with any questions, and we hope to see you soon. Have a great rest of your day or evening or tomorrow.